comenzado.
Ahí ya salió el audio ya. Ya salió el audio. Ajá. La reunión ha comenzado, dijo. Chat. Necesitas llevar el
20 personas,
el pad, el mouse.
Es que si tengo que
¿Para tu mesa?
sí.
Ya.
Hi guys, I will ask you to turn off your cameras and mute your microphones. I have guest one, someone who is logged in as guest one with the microphone open. Please mute it so we can work during the webinar. So, are you there, Rene?
Yes, I'm here.
To turn on your camera. So welcome everyone. Welcome back those who have been attending the webinar yesterday. Thank you, Rene, for accepting doing this webinar. Thank you, Willard, once more for giving support to PAF initiatives. Thank you, Laura P. Gretti, who is also here. And thank you all our top officials that have joined and for sure will enrich the conversation. I will ask you to keep your cameras off and your microphones muted because that's the way we can work well without background noise. And Rene will ask you to open from time to time your mics to answer questions, and we would like you to be as interactive as possible. You are here to learn. All questions are welcome. So, Rene, I will ask you to introduce yourself, and the floor is yours.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Rene Zelkin, and I am an international technical official. I've been doing this since 2006 and have been an FIH educator for the past I can't remember when. Since 2000. Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Willard. So I would like for you to use your chat when I ask questions, and then we'll collate the questions, answers, and we'll respond back to see what the top information is. The key is for everyone to be involved. That's the way we learn. And so here we go. So my first question to you is, how many levels of PAF technical official levels do we have? And does anybody know what they are? You can just respond in your chat section. We're getting more than 1, 3, 5, 9, 4. All right, so we're getting lots of varied answers. Okay, so, and I have one, Danielle, very good, 5 at the PAF level, and that is excellent. There are 5 at the PAF level, and they are Continental Trainee, Continental Promising, Continental Level, we have the Elite Development, and we have the Elite. Does anyone like to explain those? You can raise your hand, and I can put you on. All right, well, I'll just move on and we'll see. The first level is the Continental Trainee. There are officials that are new, you don't have a lot of knowledge or training, and limited experience. You mostly get your information and you get educated through your national association. Okay? The next one is once you're seen at that level and your national association and your paperwork is submitted by your national association to the PATH, you get put on as a trainee. And we encourage you to attend seminars like this, as well as experiences that will open up for you in your area. So the Continental Promising officials are officials that get a little bit more experience and exposure. They have good technical ability, and they need more development and opportunities. Once you're recognized, you get to the Continental level, and you can be you're very competent as a technical official. You then can get appointed as a TO at levels. You may be a TD at some second-tier Continental events. You move then further to the Continental Development level. We like to have you are a TD at PATH tier events, and usually can function on your own. And the levels here would be like the PATH Challenge, the CAC Games, the ODISAR Games, and South American Games. And then our last level is the Continental Elite. That's our highest ranked officials. You can do top tier events, Pan Am Cup, Indoor Pan Am Cup, Pan American Games, and you then usually move on to the FIH level of technical officials. All right. The next slide. Okay, so the first thing that happens is you get appointed, and that's exciting. Your first appointment arrives, you get very excited when that happens, and then you think, what do I do next? Well, what do you do next? What are the things that you might want to do to prepare yourself for the tournament? Put it in the chat section. We got read regulations, review the TMS and rules and regulations, review changes, communicate with the TD, rules knowledge, check tournament regulations, travel arrangements, visas, introduce yourself to the team. Again, review our tournament regulations. These are all excellent. Notify your national association. That's number one priority because sometimes they have to support you in your travels. So you want to make sure that before you accept your appointment, your national association backs you. And then you want to accept the appointment. All right, so some of the things that you had said. You want to answer back to let them know, hey, I'll take that appointment. You want to check to make sure that your passport, your visas, and everything's in proper order. You want to get your kit ready. You know, you might want to bring your own stopwatch, some of the other things, your tape measure, if you have a cathedral, things like that. You might want to have your kit prepared and ready to go. You want to, again, review the regulations. They're all on the FIH website. They change tournament to tournament and year to year, and some are made specifically for the tournament you're going to. This past Pan Am Games was the first time that the PATH was able to have their own regulations for that were identified by the FIH, and they were more in line with what happens at our level because some of our, being that it's a multi-sport event, there's sometimes different regulations than just a regular tournament. Review TMS, and I hope that you guys were able to get on yesterday with Lorena. There have been some changes to that, and it's very important that you go out and practice. And and that's also on the FIH website that you can go in and make yourself a little practice session. And then the uniform, depending upon, sometimes you have to supply your own, and sometimes you get a uniform, depending upon where you go. All right, so now you're prepared, you're ready to go. Off you go, and you land to wherever you're at, and you get picked up by the local organization, or you you have a way to get to where you're going. And then the first thing you do is go to the venue. Now, this is a very lovely venue. Not all venues look like this. And I know that some of our PATH officials out there have seen some different things, but the first thing you're going to do is check the venue. So I know that we have some people out there that have had some experiences. So I was going to ask Rhea to unclick her, unmute her.
Hello.
There you go. And Rhea, have you been to some venues that look a little bit differently than this?
I have. This is a top tier venue. Probably that was the Women's World Cup, most likely 2018. There have been, in our region, we have to understand that there's a diversity. We have diverse venues. We have some countries that could put on a great tournament, a great event, and there's some countries that may be economically challenged, but will do the best that they can. So some venues will have probably the bare essentials of just a turf and some basic essential items, and you have to work with what you have. And there's some venues, like I said, you would just have the works down to a relaxed room for officials and players and that kind of stuff. That's okay, Rene?
That's correct.
Nada,
Thank you
tengo
so
la
much.
imagen de René. Yo te digo, normalmente aparece la imagen tuya o del presentador y cuando se pone la presentación, esa imagen del presentador se hace chiquitita abajo y aparece la presentación en pantalla. Eso es lo que hoy...
Laura, can you interpret?
No, she was sending a message and she didn't realize she had to go out and in again, and she didn't realize her mic was open. Nothing.
Okay, great. I wasn't sure if that was a question.
Sorry.
Thank you. If you do have a question and you're not well versed in English, Laura can translate for us, and you can put it in the chat section on in your presentation, and Laura can interpret it for me. So please don't hesitate to ask a question in your language. Okay, so Rhea is correct. This is was at the World Cup, and there are venues that look much different and throughout the path. And one of the things that you have to do when you first arrive is you want to notify the TD that you're there, and then you should have gotten before you arrived what times you are supposed to check the venue and all the other meetings that occur when you arrive at the venue. So one, you want to make sure the pitch is in good order. Where do the spectators sit? Are they able to get in and out? Where will security be? Where the team benches? How do the teams enter and exit the venue? Where are you going to get some food? Where do you work? What does your little area work like? Is the technical table at the level of the pitch, or is it above? And if you see the top picture on the right-hand side, the technical table is above. It's a lovely technical table. You're in a little box. You have communication with the TO, and the TMS judge and the timing judge are up there, and you work. You can see really, really well. It's one of the best venues I've been at. But each venue has its own challenges. And you can see the team benches. You want to check the team benches, see what they look like. Making sure where does the doctor sit, where is where's the umpire going to be sitting, where will the teams warm up and cool down during the game, before the game, after the game. You have all those types of things you'll be doing pre-tournament. And I'm going to go out to Adrian. Adrian, pre-tournament is where do you feel like most of the work is done? I'm pretty sure you're on there.
Hi.
Hi.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Can you repeat me the question?
Okay, so when we have the pre-tournament work, is it difficult? How long is it? Do you feel that's the most important part of your job? What do you feel about that pre-tournament part?
Yes, I think the first 2 days before the start of the tournament are the most important days.
Yes.
If you do a good job during these 2 days, I think all the tournament is going smoothly.
Right. Thank you, Adrian. I do agree with Adrian, and I'm sure anyone who's gone to a tournament has the same feedback. When you go to a tournament, the most difficult and challenging days and the longest days for you are the pre-tournament, because there's so much technical work you have to do to ensure that everything's prepared. And if things aren't there, you have to go and get them corrected. I mean, and that's why you check your venue, you check everything, and if you have any questions or concerns, you assure that it's done. The next thing you do is your tournament briefing. This is done with all the team managers from all the teams that are there, the technical team, and usually your umpire manager may show up because they want to know what's the briefing for the tournament. And so, Nataki, can you go over some of the things that are reviewed in this briefing? I think you're on.
Oh, hi, everyone. Tournament briefings, basically. Yes. Okay, so we would go through. Basically, the briefing sets the tone for the tournament and the expectations that we expect, so that everyone is on the same page, whether it be in terms of, we may go through regulations, a little more detail, just so that everyone is clear with what is expected in terms of technical, as well as if there are any issues with the venue or any other issues that they may have, so they can be addressed before the tournament starts.
Excellent. That's an excellent explanation. That yes, if there are challenges, it's also that the last time you get all the team entry forms finalized, because once this briefing is over, it's set. There's no changes that are made after this. So you want to make sure everybody is on the same page. All the questions are cleared up, because they'll ask about varied things. And you want to make sure that these things are all taken care of, so that when you start your tournament, there are no, I will call them gotchas, that everybody knows what's going on. After that's over, or sometime during the 2 days, you have your own technical officials briefing with your TD. And now that everybody's appointed as either the TD or the technical delegate or the technical officers or officials, you're all on the same level. This is where you set the tone for your team. This is very important that, you share experiences, you get whatever jobs that you may be given during the tournament. You talk about how you're going to handle the games. You talk about, when you're going to meet, what's going to happen the day of each event. This is very important time that everybody, gets set for the tournament. And this is a very high level tournament, of course. This was the Olympics. But all technical officials will meet with the TD and set the tone for the day, or the whole tournament.
There is a question,
Okay.
Rene, from Rodrigo. In these steps, it's good to create any note document.
Can you clarify a little bit more on what you mean by that? Like set some notes that you know what you're doing throughout the tournament?
Open your microphone, Rodrigo. Can you do it? Do you have a microphone?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, thanks. On the briefing, it's good to create some document to create any documentation for all involved on this process. For example, any document that we can share with the teams or with the responsible for the all roles in this championship, for example.
Yes, all the documents are sent to the teams prior to the tournament, so they have all the information about basically what's going to be occurring. They will get during the tournament briefing, when they have to have their lineups in, what time they can start warming up on the pitch, when can they arrive, what time they have to go, what locker rooms are they in, what locker rooms they go out. They get all that information in there, and that's presented to them so that they know exactly where to be and, before, during, and after a game. Is that what you're asking?
Yes, there it is. Thanks.
Yes, it's all during that tournament. That's all during that briefing. And this technical official briefing, this is a little bit different. It's basically about how you're going to function as a team. Some teams, some tournaments I've gone to, they do a little team building exercises. Sometimes you get some emails prior to the tournament to introduce yourselves. You might get some tasks assigned to you before, like you might do colors for the teams, things like that. So, that's where you get that, your extra work that you might add. And you all work at it together. It just depends on, your experiences in the past. And if you want to learn something, don't hesitate to ask the TD. They're more than willing to help you be developed, especially in the PAF. We want to develop you so that when you do go out there, outside of the PAF, you excel. I would like Nataki to tell about her experience, I think is most recently when she was at a World Cup qualifier, I believe in Ireland. Is that correct, Nataki? And how you felt, you were prepared for that tournament.
Could you just explain, Rene, prepared in what sense?
What did you feel that the tools and the learnings that you got from the PAF prepared you for the next level?
Oh yes. I think in the PAF, because some of us may not have gotten as much FIH exposure, we believe that perhaps that we may not come up to par, but PAF, you learn everything at PAF. You are over-prepared sometimes when you go to tournaments because the PAF Education Committee, as well as the experience of the TDs and the technical officials that you work at, and they engage and they share so much, is that when you go to the tournaments, you're like, wow, it's not easy, but you're really, really prepared, sometimes over-prepared.
That's excellent. And I want you to hear that because I know that I found the same experiences. I think that Rhea will say the same, and Adrian, because we have so many challenges that occur at some of our events. I mean, Willard could say that as well. When you get a call the day of a tournament and you arrive at the tournament and your pitch is apart because they're trying to fix it before the game. I mean, things happen in the PAF that don't happen outside of the PAF. And, you take it in stride when what we feel is a very minor thing, others feel maybe a more challenging thing. It's just that we're used to having so many things happening, and we always have plan A, B, C, and D ready to go. So please know that once you go out there, you should be well prepared for the next level. Okay. All right. So then some of the other work that happens, and you can see you're checking equipment, you're checking, the regulations change for each tournament, but most at the Olympics, your gloves can only have one identifier on there, and it can only be this big, and it changes from tournament to tournament. So you have to know your regulations to check, and sometimes you can see things being taped. You check all the entry forms and make adjustments to them. You're measuring the numbers to ensure that the uniforms are correct, checking the goalkeeper's equipment. And then one of the things that's very important is to take pictures of the uniforms. This will help you when you're doing appointments for colors, because you might think, oh, I thought that was a red, but was it pink or red? And how does that clash with the maroon? Is it different? These pictures will help you. Now that everybody carries a camera, and we usually create a WhatsApp, you just put the pictures out there so whoever's doing the assignments can look at the colors to know you're not creating anything that might be challenging. Now, at the path level, generally there isn't TV, but at the higher levels there are, and a lot of the things are being now live streamed. So you want to make sure that you have contrasting colors that people can say, oh, that's that team or this is that team. You don't want to have them so close that you can't figure out who's playing and what's going on out there. So that's very important to have the colors and pictures of the colors. You'll also take pictures of all the equipment, because you might get to the venue and when you're starting your first game, you notice that the gloves aren't covered properly. There's too many markings on them, or they're too big, and you can kind of tell after a while what the size is. That maybe they don't have they didn't show you any masks in the when you did the equipment checks, and they show up with masks. Well, everything has to be checked, and so there may be a challenge with that. And you can still do checks if they come and bring you a new stick or new equipment. You do a check and sign off on it as the tournament goes along. You'll see that happen quite frequently. And then all the gloves on that left-hand side, the gloves have to fit in that box that they wear. And that box is pretty big. You'd be surprised. And of course, you're checking your goalkeeper equipment. Does anybody know what the thing on the right-hand side is, what those are? You can put it in the chat. What are those little things on the right-hand side? Knee pad, shin guards, a combination of knee pad, shin guards, and exactly that's what they are. What they'll do on corners is put those in. It's something that was developed, and the first time I saw it, we had no clue what it was, but these are now pretty common. And you do have to check all of these things prior to the tournament. Okay, and then you have to check the sticks. Does anybody know what that little thing on the bottom right-hand side is? That? Do we know what that is? And what that does? The cathedral on my right and left are different. It's the cathedral's the white. On the right is the stick ring. So all sticks have to go through that. The cathedral checks the bow, and then you do have to make sure the length of sticks are checked. There is a actual length. Does anybody know what that length is off the top of your head? I know in inches, it's 41 inches. The reason why they made a length on that is that the challenge is they were changing out sticks when they did shootouts, and they had these really long sticks. And so at the FIH competitions committee, their decision was made that they had to make a decision on the length of the stick. And that's how I happened to be on the committee when that occurred. And that's why they made an actual length. They wanted to make it so that, you know, they weren't too long. How long was too long? And this is the 41 inches is what they came up with. And after you do check all the sticks, you can see the little sticker that's on there. The pass sticker has to be placed on there. If you're at an FIH tournament, it'll be an FIH sticker. But this is some of the things you might have in your toolkit. You want to bring your stick ring. If you have a cathedral, they will be supplied if you don't have one, and your tape measure. Okay, so now it's game day. How exciting is it? So you have on the left-hand side, which is looking down, would be your TO, and looking up is your technical officials, your two judges, one in charge of the TMS and one in charge of the scoreboard. What's the most important job? Of all the jobs that are out there, what do you think is the most important job for a technical official on game day, during a game? What's the most important job? Scoreboard, score, time, scoreboard, scoreboard, and that is accurate timing. The key, the number one job is the scoreboard. You want to be sure that your scoreboard is correct. And so I think it was Nataki's tournament. They didn't have a scoreboard, or one of the tournaments, they didn't have a scoreboard at their game event, and they used the TMS time. So it now is much more accurate. So they're looking at ways to use TMS to function both as the clock and the documentation. So you want to make sure that you know how to use TMS for timing and scoring. So if you get behind on, say, a goal or a card, you can always go back and fix that, but you can't fix the clock. Right? And you want to make sure, one of the things, because this happened when I was at Pro League in Argentina last year, TMS went down. I mean, it wasn't the internet. TMS went down. And we had that morning printed out copies of all the papers we needed from the TMS. And thank goodness we did, because there was no TMS. We documented everything on paper. We had everybody sign on paper. And then the TMS came up for the second game. The first game totally was gone. But you can go back and document after the fact. You can't change the score. So it's very important that your score is accurate. Okay. On the next one. So here's some of your things that you might have ready to go. And each clock will be different where you go. What's the importance of the little, where the sundial is? There's some temperature readings. What's the importance of that? Does anybody know what the importance of that is? One says watering, humidity, medical data for athletes, safety of players during hot playing days, athlete safety. If the temperature goes above a certain level, it affects intervals. And these are all correct. You now have regulations for too hot and too cold, actually, when you can water and you can't water, because you have to worry about ice on the field. So there are things that are put in place if you reach certain degrees. So you do have to know, again, make sure you know the regulations for your tournament. So you do have your clock on the right. You have your 40-second clock. It looks like in the little one to the left of the clock. You have your TMS on the left with the laptop. You have your printer, because you have to print everything out afterwards. You have your communication device, and you have extra stopwatches, just in case the clock goes out. It did happen in my Pro League this year when I was down in North Carolina, that something happened with the clock, and we had the TMS going. It was spot on, so we went and we fixed the clock to the TMS. So you can do that. You have to make sure one of you, that's why you have to have great communication, has everything, that you know whose timing and whose clock is going, so that you can keep accuracy on your clock. And you technical officials work as a team. All right, and you can see lots of different things that every place you go, it looks a little bit differently. The clock and the scoreboard, it's different everywhere you go. So you have to know how to use it. And most clocks are, easy to learn, and they do make them a lot easier nowadays. That when you stop the clock, the 40-second clock automatically starts. I love that. It makes things much easier for you. So what would you discuss in your pre-game preparation? What do you think is very important? You see the picture in the middle. We have Edna, Tammy, and Jelly there. That's a before game. What do you want to talk about in that little pre-game? After you check the venue, you see that you've done all your pre-work around that. You have that most important, this is the assigned team for the game. what would you be discussing in that? Put it in the chat session, your discussions, okay? Any issues that need to be discussed, plan B, okay? Specific roles, points to work on together. Who is doing what role, individual roles. Are positions generally assigned or is the team decision on role? Appointments. Okay, so the positions are usually assigned. I'm going to answer that question. You'll get an appointment sheet the day before. The TD, in collaboration with the umpire manager, will appoint the umpires, they do the colors, and they appoint the officials, one in the TO role, one in the TMS or the timing role, the judge timing, and the other is judge scoring and timing. And so you know before your game, because the appointment will come out, you know what game you're on, you know what role you're in. So the TO usually, which was Edna for this game, will definitely direct how she wants the game to run. You know, making sure one set of eyes is always on the pitch. You know, what the importance of, you know, if this happens, if I tell you this, I want you to do this. I mean, you want to discuss that so that you are a functioning team that, you know, if plan A goes wrong, you got plan B going like they had said. You want to support each other, establish communication. The two assigned judges want to discuss, okay, if I'm fixing something on the TMS, please be sure you're looking at the pitch, you know, in case something happens and I might miss it, like another card is given, or, you know, you're helping time one of the cards that was given, and the TO asks you, she'll say, who's going to be my backup? You know, things like that. So you want to have, you know, your game plan for that game so that when some challenges occur, you can adjust to it. And you can see on the left, they were practicing how to like remove players. Like say a player goes down and they call out the stretcher, or you have to go out and clean up some blood on the pitch. What each of you are doing in that role, because if you have to go on the pitch, if the TO goes on the pitch, the judges need to watch the benches, you know, things like that. So you just discuss all those types of things so that you know who's doing what when each situation arises. Any questions on that? Everybody says clear. Okay. All right. We're going to move on. All right. So now, you know, you did your pregame and you're walking onto the pitch. That's the most exciting time. You're trying to figure out, okay, I've been appointed. I know my role. We've done our pregame. You know, I need to be on time. I'm going to make sure that I look good. All these things go through your head while you're walking out to the pitch, because now you're ready to go. Game on. It's game on. Just like the athletes, you want to be prepared. I can't stress enough, you know, many times you travel, you go to a different time zone, there's different foods, there's, you know, so it's more challenging. You're sleeping in a strange bed. You might be with somebody you don't know in your room, and you're on, you know, you just have to learn to adjust to all these different things. But when it comes to the game time, all that's pushed aside and you're ready to go. Okay? And then when you get on the pitch, you're looking at all these different things. So this particular tournament, you can see the technical table is on the pitch. You want to, you know, be ready to go. Watch your warm up. You know, you talked about the roles. You check your equipment. You check your clock. You check the benches. You make sure as a TO that the field is the proper watering. It's changed a lot now with the watering, that they usually have someone assigned to that. And you may have some input, but a lot of times that the people that know the pitch well are really taking the lead in that, and you're just collaborating with them if you have an issue or a concern. Any questions about any of that? Okay. All right. So now you're prepared. You're in your spots. Okay. You can see. I can see Laura. She's speaking to one of the team managers about something. Maybe there's a presentation that day. They're making sure the watering's done. They're making sure you're looking to make sure that they have on the proper uniform, right? You're making sure the umpires are prepared and ready to go. Do they have any questions for you? Where's the reserve umpire going to be sitting? You can see that they're prepared with their clocks and their equipment ready for the game. What if I'll give a question. What if the team manager comes up to you and says, I am not happy that the umpires are in black socks. I'm not going to let my team go on the pitch because they're in black socks and the other team's in black socks, and that's going to be a problem for us. We don't want to play. They have to change their socks. What would you do as a TO? How might you handle that? Right? Someone says, say the colors were sent out in advance, so they should have already asked. Okay. That's correct. This is the umpire's uniform, and it has been forever. Correct? Well, this actually happened at the Olympics, the Rio Olympics, and Laura Pigretti was the TO. The one team, this one says, see if the umpires can put white tape or something to make a stripe. And that's exactly what happened. The one team was very upset. He explained to the team manager that for years and years they've worn the same thing. It's never been an issue. And she knew the umpires very well. And she said, would you mind, just putting a stripe around your sock so that it looks a little bit differently? And the umpires were kind enough and glad enough to do that, so they did, and the game goes on. But they do need to take the field. She did explain to them, if you don't take the field, it's a forfeit, and then that causes more problems for you. She went through all those things with the team manager, but she found a very quick, easy solution to keep everything in stride, to keep the game going. I mean, these things you have to think on your feet. Crazy things like that to me is a little bit crazy. They think they can happen, and you need to be prepared to deal with a question like that. So good job on that. Okay. So pre-match protocol, there is a protocol. You'll see the ball people standing there while people warm up, so they keep the balls in each side. The umpires will be walking the pitch and checking the pitch a little bit. You as a technical team in the morning will check the pitch to make sure everything is in order. But the umpires like to walk around and check things out as well. And then they'll warm up as well while they're out there. You can see that everybody's prepared. The watering, the anthems will go. The teams are all lined up in their areas. They'll do a coin toss. You do need to get the information from them on that so they know there may be a milestone that's celebrated, but it's just a really quick one. They don't do presentations any longer during the game. They do it after the game, but they will recognize the person. And generally it's done prior to the anthems. So that keeps the games going. And you as a technical official want to make sure all of your equipment's there. And that would be making sure you have your stretcher. Where is the doctor? Do they have all the equipment there in case you have to move somebody off the pitch? And then, of course, you're checking everything. And I know there have been several times that people have picked up things that hadn't been checked. like a face mask or knee pads or a stick, you know, and again, you have your toolkit. You can check things at the pitch if you need to. And then they'll have their protocol where they walk out. And it's pretty much the same now. Although sometimes you run, sometimes they walk, sometimes there's flames, sometimes there's not. There's various things that occur now to make it more spectator friendly so that it's exciting to start the game up. So you'll see some different things, and it's not uncommon if during the game, like you're the TO on duty, and there's a request for the videographer or the TV to talk to the coach, when would be the appropriate time to have a conversation with the coach? The halftime, in the warm-up, end of the game. So they usually review this before the match. Okay, these are all great answers. They usually review this in the team briefing, and they'll discuss with them, with the team managers, when this is going to occur. Generally, it occurs at the start of a quarter, after a quarter, before halftime, end of halftime. It's usually a 30-second chat. They'll just briefly go over and chat with the coach because they want to get the coach input and things like that. So that's usually when it occurs. And there was a question, would it be prudent to ask team managers for those types of peculiarities during a manager briefing? That's true. It all happens during the manager briefing, the team manager briefing, not before a match. If something occurs differently, the TD can communicate with all the team managers. If there's a change or a protocol change after the team briefing. It's rare that does happen, but if something does change because something may not be available or something may not be working, they will send out a communication to all the team managers, you know, at the beginning of the day or end of the day. And that just keeps everybody on the same page. And then you can see kind of how the teams line up. You'll face the main stands, how the players come out. I mean, it's a little bit differently for every game. And if there is TV, you can see where all the cameras are, where the screens are, you know, where the mix zone is, because all players must go through the mix zone after the game, you know, and they can then re-enter the field to cool down after, if that's what the decision was made beforehand. But they generally have all that information there because, again, to make our sport very exciting and fan friendly, they want to interact with the players. They want feedback from the players, excitement from the players, player feedback. That will happen in that mix zone or after the game. So some of the forms that come out of the TMS, which Lorena did review yesterday, is your appointment sheet. And you can see on the right-hand side, this will come out usually the day before, the games, the colors for the teams, the appointed umpires, the reserve umpire, and if there's a video umpire, and then the judges. And now the new appointment sheet says timing judge and scoring judge, and then the technical official. What time does the starting lineup have to be in the TMS pre-match? And who puts it in? 1 hour. Team manager. Excellent. 1 hour team manager, 1 hour team manager. Excellent. So they want everything in there 1 hour before. And that's so that media gets all the information. Again, they can get it. And if there's a change that occurs, that's done at the technical table. How long before a game can a change occur if something happens to one of the starting players? They have to notify, and they have to notify the technical official. Do you know the time before the game? "15 minutes up to the start." Up to game time, question mark. And again, this will be reviewed in the the team manager briefing, but it's usually 10 minutes before the game. They like to have all changes. If a player gets injured, because you do have to clear the field, it varies from tournament to tournament, but approximately 8 minutes before that you have to clear the field for all the different things that occur, so that if any changes occur, you can give it to the team manager. And then who does the TO have to notify of the change? TD, media, the other team in media, TD, TMS judge, another team, TD, another team. All those are absolutely correct. Media is very important. The other team in media, of course, tell the team manager, all involved. Excellent. That's very important. You do need to make sure that everybody knows who's the change. So what happens if the game starts and there's different people on the pitch? What do? They told you this is the starting lineup. The starting lineup hadn't changed. They didn't tell you there was any changes. And now, as they go out on the pitch, you check the numbers, and look, 18's out there, but she wasn't starting. And now she's off the pitch. What do? Make a sub on the first minute. Update starters in TMS, make the change. Make a change on TMS and speak to the team manager. Inform the manager and change. Ask the manager. Correct. All correct. Ask the manager, make the change. The game started, so they're a starter. The other person is not. But you do need to discuss that with the team manager, because that wasn't what was put in there, and that's not what happened. So yes, great job, everyone. Okay, so these are all the things that you do. Time control, these are all your jobs. And you can see the TO, if you see her, she's doing lots of different things. And note, one of the things she's doing is she's like the ultimate communicator. She wants to be everyone's go-to person. It's very important. So she makes friends with the umpires. She wants a good rapport with them. She's there to protect them, there to work with them. She's also working with the officials. Maybe this is the person. I'm not sure if this is the person. It might be the red hat for the video or the TV, or they could be the person that manages the pitch and make sure it's watered properly. You want to be friends with them. They are your best friends, because the field of play is the most important part for the players, and you have to make sure that it's prepared and ready to go. And if they know you and you know them, things work out really well. So all these jobs are most important for the TO. As a timing or scoring judge, of course, the clock is number one. The TO does make sure that the team managers are, again, they're very friendly with them, so that if they have a request or a concern, they can discuss with them any question or concerns. Anything else that may be missing on here that you feel as a technical official, whatever role you're in, is very important? And if you see, while I'm waiting for some more responses, if there's any responses that come, communication and teamwork are the top priorities of all technical officials. Whether you're the TD, the TO, the timing judge, or the scoring judge for that game, you need to communicate very well. If you're challenged, if you're having a challenge with someone, you want to discuss it beforehand, because during a game, you have to work as a team. And if you're having challenges, you do need to discuss it with a TD to make sure that everyone's on the same page, because the success of the tournament is in your hands. It really is. The players, of course, will play, but the success of the tournament, making sure that everything runs smoothly, is that you're all on the same page. Again, always looking. Someone's always looking at the pitch, and you can see someone is always looking at the pitch. You can move around as the TO based on where the technical table is, or if the technical table is high, you can move around so you can see everything. That you can see the team benches, making sure people are where they're supposed to be, that the warm-up's occurring properly. What's an easy way to time someone in the bench that's gotten a card, a green or yellow card? What is a very easy way to do that? And if everyone's coming in, most people are coming and use the score clock. It's very easy. The clock has to stop anytime there's a stoppage of game. You might forget to stop your stopwatch. In the past, we've always used a stopwatch, but if you have 3 people in the chair, you got 3 stopwatches going, it's very challenging. If you look at the scoreboard, you jot down the time of when does the time start? Does the time start when the card is given or when the player sits? Sits, seated, sits. Absolutely, sits. So as soon as that player sits down, you write the time down and subtract however long they're out. 2 minutes for green, 5 minutes for yellow, 10 minutes for yellow, depending upon what the card is for. And then that way it's easy. They know when they're going back in. The team manager knows when they're going back in because they will ask you and ask you and ask you. So everybody knows. Okay, so who stops the game? As you see that bottom picture there, that lovely rain, who stops the game? If the field becomes unplayable. And everybody comes back, umpires. Absolutely correct. If indeed fact that the umpires don't do it, the TO can. But the umpires are the ones that are controlling the game. Remember, they have the whole rectangle. Inside the rectangle is theirs. If the pitch becomes unplayable, the players are falling, the ball is not moving, they need to have the ability, they have the authority to stop the game, and they need to do that. I can say from experience, one of my tournaments recently, the umpires did not, and the technical table did, the TO did, because it wasn't stopping, it was getting unplayable at the time. And both the umpire manager and the TD were down there discussing it with the TO to stop the game, and then there was lots of discussions with the umpires to let them know that they did have the authority and the ability to do that. But that is correct. Okay, so again, lots of things can happen. You're always watching. A player is injured. They have to get them off the pitch. A goal is scored, and maybe something happens after the goal is scored. Does someone do something that's not appropriate? Is everybody, once a goal is scored, do not take your eyes off the pitch. Bad things can happen in that time. When the umpires are discussing, and there's maybe a video referral, you have to know when subs can happen and when they can't. Watch what the coaches are saying. You may not understand them, but you certainly understand body language. And if you feel it's challenging and someone may know what they're saying, you can always get the information to make sure that they're appropriately just talking with their players and not the umpires. And then, of course, watching the weather. If bad weather is coming, you're going to keep your eyes on what's going on. Because if bad weather occurs, if you see lightning, the TO does stop the game for that. And there are various times in the United States, it's 30 minutes from a strike. Sometimes I think it's 20 minutes internationally, but it depends. Look at your regulations. It'll tell you from tournament to tournament what they're using for bad weather.
You have a question from Victor.
Okay, how long can you stop the game for weather? Well, again, back to your regulations, you have to stop it till it's safe. So if the game continues and it's thunder and lightning, thunder and lightning, thunder and lightning, and every place is different. Some people have weather apps that can tell you if it's going to clear up. Some places don't. If the weather is not clearing up, and it's not going to clear up for the rest of the day, you may have to reschedule things, and that's part of the TD's job. So you have to, and you start from the point of interruption. So you have to look at all those, that has to be taken into account for stopping the game. But again,
Rene,
yes, Willard.
I think you need to refer them to the regulations for
Yes.
bad weather, which will help them. It will save you time, but they need to read it. And every technical official, not just technical delegates, but every technical official should have that.
Correct. As I said, yes, they do have it on the FIH website. So if you go onto the FIH website and you go under event resources and you scroll down, it'll have all the information there for weather. Again, regulations are there, backups for the TMS are there, education for TMS is there, how to create a password to be able to practice in the TMS in like a live situation, but not in a real game, but it would be live. And Laura's put up the information on the chat so that you can get to all these different events. The official documents are there for, it's your resource. It's basically one of your most important resources is on the website. Okay, thank you for that. All right, so at halftime, be ready to, players now can go off the pitch into their changing rooms. They can bring their sticks nowadays. They can bring their equipment they want. You want to evaluate and double check all your match information to make sure everything's there. You want to make sure your people come back on time. So you want to watch the clock 2 minutes before the halftime ends. Make sure that the teams are coming back in so that you're ready to start the clock for when the game starts. Okay. I have two things going, not one. Sorry about that. Okay, so then if the game's over and the game now goes into a shootout protocol, you will review this after the classification rounds and before you go into the crossovers. So if you go into crossovers and you have to have a winner, you will have shootouts. And there's different places, and each time you go, there's a little bit different depending upon your venue of where people stand, because you may not have enough people to cover each team. You might not have enough technical officials to cover each team. Because they usually put one of the judges, and it may not be your game, it could be your off game, to be sure that you cover each team to make sure they're standing in the proper place, that they stay in the proper place, where the technical official stands to manage the game, where the floor manager might be for the TV, where the teams stand, where the umpires are. And this is, they're using now all three umpires to ensure that it's covered properly. So that again will be in the regulations. It varies on what appendix it is, depending upon what tournament you're at, but you definitely want to review that before you go, and then you will have a briefing at your tournament to review all these different positions. End of the match.
You have a question.
Oh,
you
question.
have a question.
Where does the judge come from? Oh, the fourth judge. The fourth judge will come from the stands. I mean, it's not your appointed game. It'll be all of the whole technical team generally works during a shootout. So the TD does not get involved. They do not go into one of those positions because they're still responsible for the whole process, so they can stand back and watch everything. But the fourth judge will come from the appointed technical team. Does that answer your question? Okay. All right, so end of the match. I've talked enough. Let's have Brenda. I know you're out there. Would you like to review what we do at the end of the match?
Yes, I would love to.
Excellent.
Excellent. Okay, well, end of match, again, it depends on how, if it was a really contentious game, you want to keep your eyes on the pitch, that kind of things, but make a note of the time at the end of the match and put on your match sheet that you get printed off. You want to review the match sheet with your table officials. With that, and once that has been confirmed, it gets printed and you go through the process of managers signing, umpires signing, and officials, and finally yourself.
And I guess I would like to point out one thing that you did say, which was very important, is if the game is contentious. So as a TO, if the game is contentious and you might have some challenges potentially from the teams, the team manager or the coach, you will be the one that will protect the umpires. You want to go to your umpires, protect your umpires, ensure that they are not challenged, because all questions go to the umpire managers and not to the umpires on the pitch. So thank you, Brenda, for that.
Yeah.
Excellent job. Any questions that may be out there? I thought she did an excellent job covering all the duties. And then, of course, there's a celebration after the whole thing's over. When it's done, it's very exciting to see who wins and know that you were a part of that event, how it ran. It's very rewarding to you. Just like the teams celebrate, you celebrate it as a technical team, because you make that tournament the way it is. I mean, how it turns out. I mean, you are part of that, the whole event, and you run that event. So it is very important for you to celebrate after it's over. It is very challenging to be a technical official. It's a lot of hard work. You put a lot of time in on your own. You work in collaboration with your federation, your national association. Teamwork is essential. I know that there's a lot of things out there right now on problem solving and decision making tools that you can use to practice. If you need to practice your communication, it's very important. Those are so essential to things that happen. You have to have respect and responsibility for everyone involved. You have to know your rules and regulations. It's a huge sacrifice for everyone, because you take time off. You're using some of your some countries support you, others you have to use your own time, and you're away from your family and your friends. But it's very rewarding to represent your country, and you can have fun while you do it. Sometimes we don't have rewards. That's true. We don't get a lot of rewards, but our reward is being part of it. I think it's very rewarding to represent your country and to be able to go see the world. I mean, the reward is just seeing different places. And then there's your team at the end. You now, because now the team not only consists of the TD, TO, and TOs. You are a team with the doctors appointed, with the umpires, with the organizing committee, with the FIH, if that happens to be an FIH tournament. I mean, you become one big team and you work together, because as you can see here, everybody at the end made that tournament a successful one. Any questions? And if there's anything that I may have missed, anyone would like to bring up, please feel free. And you can unmute your mic to discuss that, or you can send a question on the chat session. Okay, so touch a little bit on drug testing. Okay, so drug testing does occur at events. There has to be a special place for it, and when you're doing your 2 days of checking everything out, you have to make sure that your available room is there. If each different tournaments have different requirements for how many tests have to be done during the tournament, and so they will occur. There's a team that comes in. When the team comes, they usually work with the doctor that's been appointed to the event to help pick the players. And you as a TD aren't as involved at the FIH level because the doctor, it's usually the doctor that's appointed. They pick the player. The player then has to go with the representative. They can cool down, but they can't shower. So the most important thing for you is to make sure that the facilities are appropriate and in place. That if they don't have an adequate facility, you have to make sure that they do have an adequate facility. That's a bathroom that can be observed and that others don't use. Yes, Laura, you can jump in.
Rene, the testing, the number of samples is determined by FIH and WADA, depending on the tournament. And right now, for PAF tournaments, for all PAF teams, it is mandatory that the players go into WADA online e-learning. It's a very, very short webinar that they go in, but we ensure that they know that what they have to do and how they have to take care of themselves. Because if they don't learn to take care of themselves, nobody else can take care or responsibility for them, even if you have doctors. First of all, they need to be aware that they must take care of themselves. So PAF requests the host to sign a contract with the anti-doping organization in the country. Not all the tournaments have doping tests, only the first tier and those that are qualifiers for major tournaments, for FIH tournaments, not the others. And this is good because the cost is very, very high. It's a lot of samples that they require to be done. Generally, the samples are taken on the last days, but they can do it anytime at all. Even WADA can come out, or the authority can come out with taking tests at the hotel, at their homes, anytime of tournaments as well. So this is something that the players know very well, and the team managers and the coaches. So even if you have planned that you have those 2 days, they might be tested in some moment that are not those 2 days. Generally, this is kept confidential when the test will occur, and it's managed by the TD or the event coordinator with the doping authority in the country directly. They tell us when they are coming, and then we go on with the protocol you have explained. Okay?
Yep, thank you. Willard, since you're on this, is there anything that you would like to add?
About WADA?
Anything about a technical official? Anything? Since you are the chair of the Willard Howard is the chair of the FIH Competitions Committee, and he's also the chair of the PAF Competitions Committee.
And the education panel.
Yes, education panel, and he's also an active technical official.
Oh, not for very long. Just basically, Rene has done a good job in giving you a lot of information. But there's a lot more that you will need to get involved, read up on, and discuss. One of the things that I would urge you as a technical, if you're entering the technical official arena or you're already in a technical official arena is that you must continue to educate yourselves. And this comes in different forms. We may have webinars like these. We may have seminars that you can go to either in another country or in your own country, as the case may be. There are events that you can go. Not everyone will get an opportunity or many opportunities to go to international tournaments, but you need to prepare for them. So there are events, and a few of them have been named in various territories. There's Banks Festival in Barbados. There is the Big Apple in New York. There are different ones around that you can get into, which are club or festival type events, but they do have technical officials setups. And so if you go to that, you will learn a lot more. So it will help you in your preparation for whenever you get appointed. And that counts because we look at that as well. So, there's a lot to learn and a lot of dues to be paid. So Rene has just really touched on what I would say the basics. But always have your be open towards learning and asking questions. Do not be afraid. And as she said earlier on in the path, we have a lot of things that happen which don't usually happen in other continents. If they do, it's so far and wide between that they don't necessarily understand or know how to, or have the experience of how to deal with certain situations. But PAF provides that. And so, you learn from everything that you experience. And so when you go out there, you're very well prepared. And you will see it in terms of the officials or current panel of officials that are out there, of what kind of events they're getting and how frequently they get it. Okay, so that's all I would say, Rene, for now.
Thank you, Willard, and thank you everyone for taking the time of your coronavirus stay-in to attend this presentation.
If I may, hey, this is Kofi from Barbados. I just have one situational question that I'm not sure was covered. If that's fine.
Okay.
I was at the TSC Games in Colombia recently, and there was a situation where, for a shootout, there was a little doubt as to whether or not the standing goalkeeper was in position and ready. The shootout was taken, and it was scored. And obviously the team involved was, a little upset. But the discussion around that had suggested that the technical official on duty for that shootout would have been empowered to, for lack of a better term, mandate a retake of that particular shootout given the circumstances that led up to it. Is that accurate? Is the TO sort of empowered to make those decisions ahead, or the TD ahead of an umpire in a case like that?
Well. I know, I'm like laughing. I would.
Rene, let me answer it for you this way.
Okay.
The basic rule is that who is in charge of what happens on the pitch? Anyone can answer.
Oh, the umpire. I would definitely have.
The umpire, agreed.
Okay. And umpire's decisions are?
Not.
Right, final.
Not protestable.
Okay. All right. So you work with that. What it may mean is that an umpire is a human being like everybody else, and if they make an incorrect decision, it may be costly to a team. But remember that, the umpires, well, all officials are also being assessed. Um, and if the team itself, the technical officials in charge of the game, or the technical officials team, the umpires, have done their work, situations like that should not really happen. The fact that it did means then that, we'll have to have a debrief of that, obviously, and the umpires certainly would have been debriefed by the umpires managers, and the technical officials would have been debriefed by the technical delegate as well. But it is not the role of a technical official or technical officer in charge to dictate things that are happening on the pitch. You work with them. You may be able to see something happening, and you may whisper to the closest umpire, or through the reserve umpire, through the headsets, that something, pay attention to something, or because you're seeing something happening. But it's the decisions on the pitch are theirs, and we have to respect that.
Exactly.
Laura.
And the other thing, Willard, too, is the one thing in the shootout is that where you would get involved is to ensure that if you had to do a second round, that the teams do switch. And that is part of your job, is to make sure that the proper team is starting each set of wherever rounds you're in.
Yeah, just one other thing, as you mentioned that, as a shootout, the responsibility of the TO, especially if there is media, is you must, the umpire, there must be communication. It comes back to the whole communication thing. If something is not going right, or there's, or whatever, it's not ready, the communication between the umpire and the technical official who is in charge, and who is maybe taking the necessary, controlling it in terms of time and stuff. That's where the communication is, and it comes back to the point that Rene was making earlier on, that you're working as a team. It's not a team of technical officials on the table, a TO and two judges alone, and the umpires are separate. You are all part of a team. And therefore, in terms of your preparation, when the appointments are happening, usually, the TO and duty may try to have a brief word with what they may be the things that they would like to see in terms of cooperation. What would you like to see? It may be simply for the umpires, but do you want water, or do you want, something, your personal bottle, or you want a bottle of, one of those
Gatorade.
bottles provided, Gatorade or something like that. It may be simple as that, but it may be simply, how are we going to cooperate out there, right? Yes, you are out there doing your due, but you need to work with us, because we are control over outside of the pitch. We are taking records, and therefore there must be a level of communication. So you need to also have a little chat. It's not a big chat, but a little chat as to what you expect, or what you want to see, and have an agreed position. So when you come into situations like shootouts, where it is, everything counts, that you are flowing, and you are not the problem, that the players make the errors, and that's how the game is decided.
Yes. Thank you, Willard.
Okay. Fair enough.
So thank you, guys. Keep an eye on our social media, that we will be announcing more webinars of your interest. So follow us, and you will have all the information there. Thank you, Rene. Thank you, Willard. Thank you, Laura Piretti, who is still there. And thank you all, guys.
Thank you.
Stay safe, all of you.
Laura, all good?
Perfect. Very,
Excellent.
very good.
Good.
Yeah, very good. Very interactive, very good, very clear. I think it was very, very good. And we've been chatting with Laura P. in the middle, and it looked like well prepared, the webinar, not that you were like chatting about what will come to your mind. It was well prepared. It was very, very good.
Good. Thank you. All right. Well,
No,
till
thank
next time.
you.
I already signed up for the one on the 7th. So
Yes,
if there's
perfect.
anything you
I've
need me
seen
to
that.
do, if you want me to do any more, let me know. I'll be happy to help.
Yes, of course. We have to chat with Willard on the next row. So yes, now next week we have Spanish webinars, but maybe we can put another one. I don't know. I have to chat with Willard and Laura P.
Okay. All right. Well, let me know how I can help. All right.
Thank you very, very much.
Okay. Have a
You
great
were
day.
great.
Have a nice weekend.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.